This is Pitch Please, the show where people who play games pitch ideas to people who make them. This week...
This should be the description on the game store. You can choose things to make the thing for the guy.
Right, welcome to Pitch Please. My name's Alex, and I'm joined by developer Chris from Foggybox.
Hello.
Developer James from Catastrophic Overload.
Hello.
Thomas the Ideas Engine.
All right, welcome.
And regular contributor Matt.
Hello.
Hello. Regular contributor sounds really underwhelming to me. I feel like it needs to be more exciting than that.
Picasso of the pitch world. Pitchasso.
Video game journalist.
Oh, no. We want to give him like a respectable title.
That is respectable. There's no greater craft.
My bad.
Matthew, welcome back. It's been a couple of episodes since we've had you on. It's nice that you're back.
Thank you for having me.
I think it was nice to have a break.
And this, I don't know if I've done this before. Maybe I have.
What, had a good idea?
But it's been a while. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
I want to pitch an idea. I don't know if Matthew's been present while I've been pitching recently. For an Alex pitch.
Must have been.
The mushroom one, maybe.
The mushroom one.
The last one that went out as of this recording, there was the Postman Pat one, and then before that we had, was it Rithians? Rithian was with us.
Robolike.
I believe. So the Robolike, someone listened to that, and they sent us a tweet on our Twitter account, which is...
Really? Wow.
They found it?
They found it. Holy shit.
Which is Pitch Please Pod with no vowels, right? They tweeted us and said... You guys seem to be breaking the mold. Something's changing because this is actually a good idea. You've been having some real good ideas recently.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and didn't agree because none of them were Dungeon Daddy.
It's because Tom hasn't done one in a while.
The fucking hell.
We replied to that saying, "Don't worry, there'll be some shit that's coming up," and then they listened to the Postman Pat. The same person listened to the Postman Pat episode that went out and replied and said, "Oh yeah, no, there they are."
There it is.
This one's for you.
So this one might be of that same vein as that was mine.
Hopefully.
I feel like this one might be quite divisive. It's also going to require quite a bit of work from people.
Just how I like it. I love work.
Put some effort in as a team. And it will require more or less work depending how familiar you are with the original property.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I won't be at all then, so count me out.
It's always a good start.
Why do I feel like it's
going to be very niche, isn't it?
It's going to be really, really niche and awkward. Like, oh, do you remember this classical piece from this person 200 years ago?
No, okay.
That burned in a village.
Right,
no one's ever seen it. But do you remember it?
It's not that. The very, very basic elevator pitch is The Great British Bake Off, the video game.
Oh, okay. I know about that. I know about the Great British Bake Off. Hang on, the elevator pitch is the Great British Bake Off.
That's it. So.
Sorry,
and then I was trying to think how.
Get out.
We're done. That's it. So if anyone doesn't know the Great British Bake Off, Chris's face is just doing lots of different things.
Well, mainly because you haven't pitched a game.
Okay. Is it, all right. We're going to get there.
Cooking Mama? Is it? Dare I say it? Brunch Club?
Dare you say it?
The Great British Bake Off, for anyone who hasn't seen it, is a competitive TV show where a bunch of contestants, I think it's 10, all go in a big tent together in a lovely, summery English field somewhere, and they bake things together. They have a series of rounds where you're like, okay, you have to do a signature bake, and this is a trifle. You have to make a trifle, and then they'll have a technical bake.
It's MasterChef, and if you haven't seen MasterChef, then it's like Forged in Fire, but with food. And if you haven't seen Forged in Fire and imagining food with that, then it's like that Lego
Great
one.
British Sewing Bee or the Lego
Great British Sewing Bee or the painting
it's
one.
It's one of those
It's like
things.
those
Away on
cooking.
Netflix or fucking
Great British Bake Off outside of the UK is the Great British Baking Show.
It's really?
Yes,
Why?
it is. Because, I don't know, they don't know the word
They
off.
don't have bake-offs there.
They don't have offs.
They never go off.
They never go off. But yeah, it's called the Great British Baking Show.
Well, it's that. It's
Yes,
uniquely
exactly.
British. It's wonderfully charming. And everyone really watches it for people to drop their cakes, to
There's
be honest.
handshakes.
soggy
The
bottoms.
main difference is between a lot of the shows that we used to watch before. You have The Apprentice, right? And everyone is just like an absolute dick.
Yeah.
Everyone in that is an asshole. Most people in these kind of shows, like it feeds on, or like it's built around the competitive elements and people like fucking each other over and stuff.
Everyone's just fucking each other constantly.
Everyone just wants each other to succeed. They're all very friendly and helpful.
And it's not got like the really awful American style editing. And I know it's not American style, but a lot of shows are like this, and they tend to be American, where it's like long pauses, and the person who is leaving the show is boom, 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 boom. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-dun. Jerry.
Is it Africa?
What is that?
Toto.
Dun, 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 dun.
They play the whole Africa.
Everyone looking around the studio sheepishly.
Right, so what is this game?
Yeah, what's the game?
So it's a cooking game, clearly, but what kind of cooking game is it? I don't think it's like Cooking Mama, because in my head, Cooking Mama is kind of like a... Oh, fuck, hang on. I'm getting a call from Deliveroo. I'm sorry.
It's a Deliveroo game.
Jesus.
Hold on.
Well, we'll fill time.
Little Lord Fauntleroy getting his coffee.
Okay, can we fill time by just guessing what his actual fucking idea is? Because he came into the elevator and he said British Bake Off. Is it Cooking Mama? That's the entire pitch so far. And I've got no idea what he's trying to pitch to us.
For me, it makes more sense to do a Cooking Mama style one, because in that you do get the steps, and you're trying to make something. If you want to make something big and like a showstopper, then that would make more sense. It's like, I feel like it's a DS game.
It's definitely a DS game, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
But I feel like there should be a creative element to it, because you're trying to design a visually stunning cake, so it needs to be some kind of sort of physics-enabled stack of sponges that you're carving up.
Oh, yeah. I think it should be Cooking Mama, where you're making all the pieces, all the tiny little biscuits and the shortbread and whatever else, all those individual bits. And then they create the next level, which is the building blocks to make your creation. And you have to stick it together with icing and all this junk, and maybe it collapses.
Oh, yeah.
And then
maybe how well you perform in the Cooking Mama section sort of defines the structural integrity of the sponge that you have to work with in the physics section.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh my God! Well, now that Alex is back, I think we can safely say would play all round.
Yeah.
What a great episode! What a great
Pitch
episode!
Please pod without the vowels. See you later.
Rate us on iTunes. Bye.
Shit, has it gone that long?
We've solved it. Anyway, what's your idea?
From what I remember, Cooking Mama is like, I'm thinking of the DS game, which is kind of like a bit point and drag. Or like you move stuff around. It's like 2D.
You swirl it, you
down,
blow it,
right?
you pull it, you push it, you bop it.
Maybe there is that. I don't know. But like what I really like about Great British Bake Off is the different phases, right? So you have the one where you have the first one where it's like the signature bake or whatever. There's like the signature and then like the showstopper, and you have to make like the really extravagant cakes or a really extravagant bake or whatever. But then also there's the technical where you have to do it. They don't know what it's going to be until the day. So putting different kind of challenges like that in there. But then also the difference between, one of my favorite things about the show is like you have an artistic impression of what is going to be designed initially. So they're like, this is what my idea is going to be. And it always looks incredible.
Yeah.
And that versus what it ends up being. Sometimes they're fantastic, but sometimes they can be a bit of a mess. And I think that could be quite an interesting part as well. Like if there is some kind of like design phase plus the baking or the cooking phase.
I'm almost picturing like a Jackbox game where you reveal to everyone the image of what you were intended to do and what you actually did, and then people reacting in some way. Yeah. So there's like a crowd judge element to it.
It's a little bit Gartic Phone as well, I guess.
What you start with, like the luxury drawing, you give that to another person, they have to remake it, and then someone else remakes what they've made or draws what they thought the original artist impression was, and you get to the end and it's like, oh God, it's just a fish finger sandwich.
It's just a brown mess.
Oh God. This is going to suffer the same problem that Pokemon Snap has, which is how do you like define what like something is artistically done well? You know, if you've got a picture of something that you've got to make, fair enough. That's the route we're going to have to go down, isn't it? You're not going to be able to go, I'm going to design a 3-layer parfait sandwich with, it's like you can't You can't do that, can you?
I see you like baking.
Clearly. A croquembouche. I've lost it now. No.
Censor that.
You're gonna have to like be served up what you're gonna make, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's you're just gonna have to.
So okay. So the solution that I had, well, okay, this isn't a solution, but the answer that I had in terms of the judging was that it was judged by, it was NPC judged, like it was AI.
It's judged blind.
Not AI,
the AI is going to leave the tent.
Yeah. In my head, there were like 3 different things that you would be judged on. It would be like, or a couple of different things. There was like the craftsmanship of it, like the artistry or the flair and the taste. And those things might not be...
Okay.
Taste, yeah. Well, they have to taste. It has to taste.
But that has no like equivalent in a game. Like that is impossible. That is impossible to show.
The ingredients that you're putting in, right? Surely, if you put in mustard instead of sugar, like I think the game can have like a rough idea of what it's going to taste like.
No, I think
that could be maybe they're different profiles for different judges.
So I think mustard. You go. Does anyone remember the Puffin minigame from Pokemon?
Sorry, the what minigame?
The Puffin minigame from Pokemon, where you get that spider diagram of like spicy and sweet. And I suppose you could do profiles like that, where it has like a graph that you sort of kind of need to sort of stick with. And if you add in mustard, it adds in like a bitter. If you add in sugar, it adds 1 to sweet. And there is like certain ingredients that do add certain things, and that you have to try and match that. I suppose that's how I would do
like
taste.
This one. Just a plate of mustard.
Yes.
You'd want to really invest in like a facial animation system that could really like purse its lips if something's too tart.
LA Noire style.
Yeah, LA
facial
Noire, but
capture.
they're like, oh, it's just bitter. Like it's just there wincing.
I just had a really worrying thought because Cooking Simulator, I think, has a DLC that is basically MasterChef.
Oh.
And when you said that when you're making, meals and recipes and whatever else, it comes up with, spiciness, hot, fucking sweet, all that stuff. That happens in Cooking Simulator. If you put too much sugar in, it's very sweet. If you put mustard in,
but this is what I think it shouldn't have, is that like when you're actually baking the thing, is it shouldn't be telling you at that time, hang on a second, buddy, you're putting in salt instead of sugar, or this is this is going to be too spicy, or this is going to be spicy, or this is going to be hot, or whatever. You have to figure out what that, like, it's up to you to just eyeball that stuff, or have use the tools available to you. Like, it shouldn't be telling you like, okay, this is going to be really spicy. That's why the judging period will be hopefully quite fun to watch, because you could really fuck something up, or you could make something amazing, but you're not going to know until the judging period comes along.
Everything should have like an attribute towards it. So if you pick up a chili and you look at it, and it will be like, add spice. Well, saying this, so on my current game, which I can't say the name of or talk about because it's not announced yet, that was one of the. This is going to be really helpful. What was one of the original ideas? It's just that it just ended up going down a huge rabbit hole of just feature creep. So we cut it back. But that was the original idea. You would get someone would. I'm trying to keep this as vague as possible.
Navigate it.
I
believe
this thing, and then you would have to pick and choose things to then fulfill that thing they want.
Yeah, yes.
This is so tortured.
It should be a description on the game store. Pick and choose things to make the thing for the gameplay.
I'm sorry, Chris. Knowing what, having a bit of insight.
We all know what it is.
I'm really trying.
He's doing a terrible job, frankly. But okay, what if make the judging phase more interesting? What if every ingredient you have is sealed in like a metal tin, and you can't see what any of the ingredients you're actually putting in are?
And then blind tins.
When you have to taste it.
Yeah. Well, no, when you serve it up to the judge, he's like, "Wow, my salad is awfully mustardy and bacony. This is odd." And you're like, mustardy and bacony. I know what those two. That's mustard and bacon, and you have to label them all for future recipes.
You start off with just blank tins that have nothing.
You have no idea what any of them are, and you just make me a lasagna. and you've just got to hope and pray that you're.
I feel like that should be like the technical challenge where you don't know that stuff. Maybe that's what the blind part of the technical challenge is.
You choose 7 tins out of 15. They're all the same, and you have to make whatever you can out of the 7 you then open. They're all beans.
Could you have a vague? Could you have a vague, like a recipe book, which maybe describes the behaviour of ingredients, so you have to work out what they are from behaviours. So it's a bit like ghosts and phasmophobia. You're like, well, this ingredient rattles, so it must be chocolate buttons, and this one sort of, it doesn't flow easily, so it must be, I don't know, flour.
It all uses like the HD rumble from the Switch, and you have to figure out what's inside each tin.
Sorry, I thought I was making a chocolate button cake. It's actually bones. I feel like I don't know. Like, I feel like there is a lot of potential for a lot of silliness in something like this. So maybe that is the way we go. I don't know, but like, I don't know that's the thing. I don't know what the gameplay is at the moment. I know I'm the one who was supposed to be pitching it, but
yeah,
I don't know if it's like Cooking
weird.
Simulator.
Yeah, is it precise?
Or if it is Cooking Mama, or
is it motion controls, like VR?
I don't know. Like, what is it? What makes a good? Because I've got to be honest. Like, I am not really interested in cooking games. So it's I want something that I would want to play.
God,
like, but I love watching the Bake Off. Right, I really enjoyed that.
Matt's original thing of the Jackbox style. I think that is definitely the first phase where you draw something. Maybe you draw a main shape, like the main structure, and there's things you can bring on where it's like, okay, I want for decoration, I'm going to add on some biscuits or something like that. And then at the end, it obviously it puts them one over the top of each other, and it will give like how outside the lines are you, how like you drew that you wanted 10 biscuits on here, but you've put 4 on. So, your accuracy has gone down.
Yeah.
I feel like at a base level that can give people a visual representation of how bad or good it was. And then the judges obviously can spin off from that. With if you do taste and whatever. I think the drawing aspect, because it's very much expectation versus reality, but then the expectation was shit as well because half the people can't draw. And I feel that makes it funnier.
But, okay, so is that what the technical challenge side is about? Like when you're like, okay, you have to make this kind of perfect,
I think that's the showstopper
a mirror cake or something.
I would say that's the showstopper because that's your thing that you are doing to show off. I feel like the technical one where you don't know the ingredients and you're given a recipe, I think that's funnier with luck.
Is this a single player game or is this a multiplayer game?
I think it should be multiplayer. I want to see people get eliminated and go through different stages.
The battle royale of Great British Bake Off.
That's what I was thinking.
Where it's a fantastically huge tent, and then it's the Battle Royale. Yeah, I mean, sounds good.
Well, that's how you could picture it, right? Battle Royale Bake Off, something's really got Tom.
Oh God, no, Battle Royale. I'm trying not to laugh at Battle Royale. Okay, that's what's happening. I don't want to give him credit for that. Oh, that's good too. That's good too.
You can really make a meal of it.
Fuck. Okay.
I really like the judging period of like now. Matthew, you were talking about the facial animations. I genuinely think that should be a thing in this game. Like, I feel like that part of the game could be one of the strongest elements. Like, if watching how the judges react, if the animations are good enough.
Oh yeah,
it's either LA Noire style animation, fully face captured, I guess is what it was. Or it goes for the Professor Layton approach when you solve a puzzle and he like flashes on screen like 3 times and then he puts his finger up and he's like, hey, that's it. Or he's just like, you fucking idiot. Maybe there's like multiple flashes of them just biting it, almost throwing up, then smiling, and then they're like, no, it's bad. And then they throw up again.
You could go down the ratatouille route, where the critic eats the ratatouille at the end and it like whisks him back to childhood and you see him. It could like transport them to another place. If it's a delicious cake, it's a happy place. If it's a horrible cake, they're like transported to like the worst memory of their life.
The time they got hit by a car or something and they just to see them rolling.
It's their wife leaving them. Oh my God.
I really like the LA Noire style like element, like realism, like photorealism reactions.
So how do we do that on a multiplayer level? Like, maybe you can't.
Well, it's just the judges.
Yeah, that's the judges. That's why I think I just like the idea of just getting Paul Hollywood in and being spoon feeding him vinegar just to get his reaction.
It's got amazing streaming potential just to fuck with the judges, where you like ignore the recipe and you just like spit in the bowl and they still have to eat it.
Yeah. I poisoned Paul Hollywood? Question mark? Exclamation mark?
That's a good video title.
Mary Berry's dead? Question mark.
Achievement unlocked.
This has great SEO opportunities.
But yeah, I think the judging period is strong. That can be basically how it is in the show, right? You have 2 or 3, like a round of 2 or 3 different bakes, or maybe it's just one bake or whatever, and then you have the judging period. Someone gets eliminated.
Wait, what are the 3 rounds exactly? There's a showstopper, the technical, and
in the show there's the signature, which is meant to be like a bake that is personal to them, that they think like shows off their their style.
It's really weird stuff. Like, this is my fairy cake, which reminds me of when I learned how to ride a bike for the first time. It's like, it's a fairy cake.
I feel like that's not that. Yeah, like maybe it's kind of like a
nice
lesser version of the show.
Jesus,
Fuck off. Fairy cakes remind me of fairy cakes.
We can get rid of signature, right? Like it's not that good. It's like it's the showstopper and the technical, the showstopper and the blind one are the big ones.
Sure, yeah.
So there's a round where you have completely blind ingredient, where you just have mess tins that are unlabeled.
They just tell you have to make something, but not how to make it, or necessarily with what ingredients you've made it with.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
And then there's a judging period. Someone gets kicked out.
Yeah.
And then you have the showstopper, or maybe you just have maybe it's technical showstopper, and then someone gets kicked out, and you just keep repeating that until there are
fight to the death.
3 people left. And then someone wins.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great opportunity to do just a load of mini games, right? It's like you've got 12 gingerbread men who can pipe the best icing on these 12 gingerbread men, the fastest or the neatest. It's just I don't know.
I can do it pretty quick.
Yeah,
there's a whole
I can
load
pop
of mini
my
games we
icing
could do
pretty fast. It's underwhelming.
Pipe, not pop.
Sorry.
That's got a kind of Fall Guys energy to it.
Well, that's where my brain's kind of been going with this whole, if we're going to do a massive multiplayer bake-off, is that you do the loads of mini games, there's loads of tables, loads of ovens going.
I was imagining the game that should have existed long ago, just WarioWare Battle Royale. And it's just loads of really wild mini games, but they all have a small break when you combine all these mini games to realize, yep, I've just made parfait.
I just can't get over the image of the judging period of having the judges going to just eat a cake, eating some kind of bake that is clearly just obviously awful. I've made a cake, but the cake is made entirely out of mustard. And you're going to have to watch them slowly eat it with a big spoon. And then
they have to eat the entire
reaction.
thing too.
They have to eat the entire thing.
Yeah.
But okay, so we've got the judging period
we
down
nailed
in terms
the end.
of
yeah.
In terms of the reactions of how does it work? How is it going to work in terms of if it is AI or if it is like the NPCs doing it, computer doing it, which I think it should be. What's the scoring system? How does that work?
I think in my head, you still draw your showstopper at the start, and then everyone gets their little station, just like in the show, and then it becomes like cooking sim when you pick things up and put it in chop. Like I think you have some nice interactions there. You know what's sort of how to do these things. It's just that when bringing it all together at the end, when you're like picking up a cookie, you have to rotate it on and trying to like shove it on. And I think like that, and with icing, you can do mini games with that. Whether it's WarioWare style, you've got a minute to cut out 10 shapes that you said that you were going to cut out. So towards the end, they start getting a bit crazy, and you're taking but then you can still use the outlines of that as a comparison, so you can get an accuracy from that. And I think you just get a score based on the accuracy, and then there's one for taste, and then it's like a combination of those two.
You'd have to. The thing that you design at the start must have to conform to something. Otherwise, you'd be like, I'm going to bake a single tier cake with icing on top, and you could get a maximum score easily. But if you'd be like, well, you can only achieve 50 points if you do that. If you add another tier, that's another 50 points that you can achieve. And so you can kind of gamble. You can be like, right, well, my showstopper's a 26 tier cake with a maximum score of 1 million points or something. But obviously the chances of doing that and stacking that many tiers is unlikely. So
and at what point do you choose to put mustard in it?
That's right.
But if that's designed,
at that point, I feel like a mustard could be quite brave. If you put a tiny bit of mustard, like maybe that's the thing that's going to win you.
Maybe if the judges at the start, they say things like, I like a bit of mustard, but not a lot of mustard.
They give you a requirement that everyone needs.
And he's like, do I try and like appear? Or like,
what does I like a bit of mustard mean?
Maybe all the contestants have like rumours and you don't know which are true. They're like, I've heard Paul Hollywood wants to eat a bone cake.
There he does.
Okay.
And you're like, oh man, is that true? Like, I don't want to be the only one who makes a cake out of bones.
So you're trying to simulate the sort of banter that these contestants have, like in the tent. You know, they're always having a conversation like, oh, this is so fun. Noel's coming round being like, I heard Paul Hollywood, he really likes rah, rah, rah. And you're like, oh, cool, yeah, I'll do that. And he's pulling your leg.
It will make the judging stage like really interesting as well. Like Paul Hollywood bites into the only person that's made a bone cake, and he's like,
and his eyes just double in size.
Very interesting. And then he puts his hand forward to shake your hand. It's like, yes, he loves
bone cake. And then it becomes like hand simulator.
That's a whole mini game in itself.
When he holds his hand out,
goes into like bullet time. Everything slows down, and
an audience
it's a quick time event
viewing thing. Much like Jackbox, you could have the audience score as well. They could factor in. Maybe you get an extra point if you win the audience score.
Yeah, sure.
I think there should be that
could be Twitch integration.
A third judge who is like amalgamation of a live audience.
Just a blob. Just a hot mess.
But it's controlled by like everyone.
Anytime the internet controls a robot, it turns racist eventually, and I don't really want a nice cooking game to have like one racist judge.
This cake. It wasn't racist.
Too foreign for me.
So I think the design, going back to the designing phase, I don't think that there should be any kind of freehand design in it at all.
Oh,
because Tom can attest to, like, if I have to draw anything,
I've seen
nothing that I can draw.
No.
It's going to be awful, and also people are going to cheat it as well. They're going to do things like, okay, I'm going to draw a dot, and then I'm going to make a crumb. And I'll get 4 points for it.
I think in the drawing stage, like, okay, just real quick, you are probably the worst artist I have ever seen, but the drawing stage, I think no matter what you draw, if it's a shape or whatever, you kind of, the bigger you draw it or the more elaborate things you put into it, or maybe you have to put a list of stuff that you're going to add to it. Like when you draw the shape, you're like, this is going to be made of 10 shortbread chunks and 1 layer of pancake, and it's going to be held together with actual glue. Then that just means that when you get to the showstopper, you have to make all of these things or collaborate all these things together to actually perform this miracle that you've drawn. And even if you do draw just the worst Sonic the Hedgehog drawing I have ever seen, then you kind of have to make it happen in the cooking stage by building that shape out of whatever you cook, or out of all of the ingredients of stuff that you've made. So I think it can work either way, even if you are awful with a pen.
You would set a minimum volume.
Yeah.
For that. Yeah, I mean, that's the way I'd do it.
This sounds... I think Alex is right in that there should be no free drawing, and that you have a box of shapes or a box of parts, and you go, I want that there, and it all connects together, so it makes... you can still be creative and make something, but it's all like obtainable shapes.
I suppose I was thinking like almost like a grid-based system where you're like, okay, I want a sponge tier here, and then I'm gonna paint it, or I'm gonna inject it with chocolate so it turns brown, and then I'm gonna put some icing on. Like, so it is very much like, kind of like the old, almost like you're designing a character in Habbo Hotel.
It's a sponge.
You don't inject sponge with flavour after the fact.
Just inject it with chocolate. It makes it brown. Everyone knows this.
No, but it's like a character creation system for a bake, right?
Right.
So you create that, and then you're like, okay, now I know what it looks like. Now I have to make, and also because you're doing it from a bunch of defined objects, the game now also knows exactly what it's meant to be like. and you have and the difficulty comes in putting those two things together. And so it knows what it's supposed to look like and what it's supposed to taste like.
Yeah, no, I agree, because well, expanding on that then means you say I'm going to make a 10-inch base tier, then you can the game has a 10-inch cake tin, and you're like, okay, so that's at least accurate to that. And then if you shave stuff off after to make it rounded or anything you want to do, if we allow that, then slicing meshes isn't exactly difficult from a game development perspective.
Okay, but how aggressively physics-based is this?
I would say like cooking sim.
There has to be a moment where, like in the show, right, when they make these extravagant, like ridiculous showstoppers, and they have them on like gigantic trays. They pick them up and they walk them over
I think
to the presentation
that's when
table.
the game turns into like a. It should turn into like the bridge building games where you can see the structural integrity, like an X-ray of your entire thing, and every step you can see it like going like 90%, 95%.
See, I was imagining like doing a manual in Tony Hawk. As you walk along, you just having to tilt the stick left and right and keep it centered.
I just want the thing to crumble. That's all.
Okay,
I want.
so we're doing these rounds, right? Let's say I don't think we've decided quite how many players we've got. Let's say we've still got 100 players.
100 players.
And you're doing the signature, the technical, and the whatever, the showstopper over and over and over again.
The technical element is just like a table with 100 cakes lined up on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, judges have to go through one by one.
We'll say that
you just watch your reaction, right?
There's 99 players, and you do have to perform those 3 tasks 33 times total.
99?
Yeah, you have to perform the task 33 times before you get to the end of the game. And also, the judges have to eat the entire meal, and that takes 45 minutes, depending on how bad the meal is. So,
All I'm saying, how do we each time we repeat make it more interesting or more challenging?
You have to put on top of your previous signature thing or your previous showstopper, you have to stack them together until at the end you've got this monster cake that is just a collaboration of all of the showstoppers you've made.
They do things other than cakes.
No.
Okay. We've been saying cakes is shorthand, but like it could be whatever you can put in an oven, right? I mean, you can put anything in an oven.
Anything in an oven.
You put your mind baby.
Yeah.
Not with that attitude, Alex.
Like anything that is largely bakeable, right?
Anything's bakeable.
It can be
bricks.
bricks. You could put it can be like like steak, or there's loads of savoury stuff.
Shoes,
like whatever, pies, shoes.
The theme changes, right?
Yeah, the theme changes, and that's why there should be perhaps like 5 rounds, and you have because like in the show how they switch it up every week is they'll have like, okay, this week we've got the pies week, and this week it's bread week.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Bread week's the big one, and then there's like gluten-free week.
Maybe you just do a showstopper for every week. That's it.
Just one showstopper.
But that's the get. Like you just do your big thing 5 times for different types of food.
But I really like having that, like the technical side in there, where something that is basically everyone has to make the same. Like the game gives you okay, this is what you're supposed to make. This is the perfect example of what this is supposed to look and taste like. Everyone now try and make it and see how it holds up. I think that could be quite a fun round.
Making that a game is probably significantly easier than trying to make this grand showstopper and creating your own showstopper. If we were to dial it back, you just make the entire game a series of cake-based challenges each time.
Maybe you draw 3 cards, and they have different things on them. And you have
honestly,
to then
I was thinking, how do we get...
no, I meant like I have to make a pirate ship or a football or, I don't know, some other bullshit showstopper that's related to their personal life that I give no shit about.
A radish.
I was going to say, how do you up the ante each round? And maybe it's like
you have to add your showstopper to the previous showstopper.
No, that's not okay. That's a terrible idea. No.
Think about it. It's impossible.
Think about the first time you ever play this game and you're like, all right, I'm on to round 2. Amazing. And all of a sudden you have to stack your, I don't know, gargantuan cake on top of the Eiffel Tower. And you're like, I'm out of the game.
Then the first cake you make is always going to be, I've made a giant cube.
Well,
because it's I've made a single layer.
Platform.
Yeah. It's made of concrete and 90% mustard because it's like solid as shit. Like, of course that's not going to work.
It's a bone stage. I made a bone stage.
100% bones.
I like the idea of Paul Hollywood hovering around your kitchen station, and he's getting nervous that he's going to have to eat concrete and mustard, which you are quite clearly preparing. And he comes along and makes comments like, "Oh, I see that a lot of concrete and mustard involved."
Everyone else has got a whisk and a bowl. You've got a cement mixer.
It's okay because I like a bit of concrete, not too much concrete.
Like, should I be worried?
You talk to the other contestants, and they're like, "I heard Paul Hollywood loves concrete."
Chow down on a brick at the weekend.
So
I think there should be like a room, like in between rounds, there should be some kind of like
rumour round.
Rumours, like a rumour mill or some kind of thing that is like, because it shouldn't always be the same judges as well.
You
that should be
interrogate
the thing. It's
the
like
other guests, the other contestants.
So then it's LA Noire.
Yeah, then it's LA Noire.
Like in between, like so maybe the whole like one round or one run of the game, you have judges, you have the same judges, but every time you play, it's different judges, or there's a pool of lots of different
classic
judges. So
judges from the BBC version.
I hear Greg Wallace likes eggs. Oh, great! Cheers.
Well, maybe you can ask them a question, so you can point to anything on your table and say, Paul Hollywood, do you like bones?
You just get the face, the LA Noire face, and you have to judge. Just like in that game, is that a good face? And they just
He does actually do that in the show, where he's like, "Oh, I'm planning on using blueberry in this," and he just stands there and is like,
he does. Yeah, he makes,
blueberry.
And then it turns out like he fucking loves blueberry, and that's his like, I love this face.
That's
because you can just never. He's like,
I wonder if Paul's got any allergies. Anyway, sorry.
Concrete and bones.
Concrete might be an allergy.
I think
I'm allergic
while
to
you're
concrete.
baking, well, not while you're baking, while you're preparing, everyone should have an opportunity for the judges to come around, and you have like a small comment. You can ask them one question.
I was just going to say, we keep saying these rounds. How long are they?
45 minutes each.
Oh, I was going to say, are they like, here's your 5-hour showstopper time?
Yeah, yeah.
Cheers,
There
thanks.
does need to be an element of like, you're having to manage lots of different things in your head at once because you're baking stuff. You need to figure out how long it needs to go in there for, when it should come out, and then when to swap things around. You're like, oh fuck, I need to get this out quickly so I can start decorating it.
And you're like deep in kneading,
cake,
and then all of a sudden,
cake takes a minute.
A notification comes up on the side of the screen while you're kneading stuff, and it's like, oh fuck, I have to talk to Paul Hollywood right now for the show. It's for the show.
Yeah.
And then you have to back out from making all your shit. Just to ask him if
you're watching the oven set on fire while you're in the conversation. Do you like fire? I think that element of like, being able to having to juggle things, and maybe like Chris, like you, how long do you think it should take? Like a round?
I think they would like, you would say like, okay, the cake takes a minute to cook, so you put it in, and if it takes 30 seconds to cool down to the right temperature to ice, but if you do it before, you have the whole thing becomes soggy and horrible. Or some people might forget to take their cakes out, so they're just burning whilst they're doing something else. Some people don't put their cakes in time. The timer runs out. They basically serve a cake tin with raw batter in it, and they've just dumped shit on it. Like, I think you'd have to. Like, 5 minutes? I don't know. It depends.
What if it's like an entire day of cook serve delicious, where you've got all these tiny little, not mini games as such that you're playing, but you throw the thing on the patty on the oven, and you have to get it before it starts burning, and you have to take the buns out of the freezer and defrost them, and you have to cook them, and it's all like really quick, simple things. But in all of this, you're like, I need to make 10 biscuits, and you throw the whatever biscuit stuff on the biscuit maker, and the biscuit maker spits out a full ass uncooked biscuit. You put the uncooked biscuit bits in the. I don't know how to make biscuits, turns out, but. After doing all these mini games, you're trying to juggle at the same time as like, right, that's come out. I can put that in now. I can throw that to the side, and then you go to the preparation station for this one biscuit, and you very gently move it across and then plonk it in place, and then you go back to the chaos of making all the other biscuits and and all the other pieces that you eventually then throw on top of each other in what should, I think, be really, really physics based.
Those key moments, like I think, like the physics-based moments of like having to move stuff over, I think could be really, really crucial to the game. Like there are bits in again in the show, this is something that they focus on a lot. Like stuff when you pull stuff out of the oven and you're having to turn it over to get the cake tin out, I need to pull this cake out without fucking it up,
and if the
and
entire
making sure
thing,
it's not going to fall apart.
If the entire thing collapses, if something hits hard enough, then one of those biscuits snaps in half, and you're like, oh fuck, I have to make another one. So you go back, you get all the stuff, you put it all together, and you're like, right, I've got this last biscuit that I need. Stack it on top of it.
Or do I glue it together?
Do I use actual glue?
Cement?
Or use actual cement it together?
No, I've just been thinking that this should definitely be physics based, and just imagine the chaos of like flour going everywhere, or just as simple as breaking an egg. You just got to crack an egg on the edge of a bowl, and you like send the bowl flying, and you're like left with nothing. And I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, I really like Cook Serve Delicious, and I think it kind of, that sort of play style works, I think, in terms of the chaos of it all. Like, if you have to be interrupted from your entire process to answer a question from one of the hosts as he comes over, or maybe the cameras come over and this is like your primetime moment and you can't make any mistakes in this section, or the camera will catch it, or something like that, I think could work quite well. However, it's Cook Serve Delicious, and we are just stealing that game, I think,
We'll just rename it like Cook Judge Delicious ? And that's it.
Judge Delicious.
Wow.
But the difference is, I think, like the judging period, I think, and like the battle royale side of it, I think that, and the design stage as well. Like all this stuff, I feel like really feeds into what the Bake Off show is about. And the physics stuff as well, I think. But like especially having the judges, like I think, I really want to see that. I think like in terms of just watching that, like on Twitch, just watching other people play it, like that instantly makes it way more watchable. Like seeing people's cakes or seeing people's bakes or whatever be judged by these NPCs who are going to react based on what you've put in it, I think just could be amazing.
Can you see the other players running around you? Like, could you mess with other players? Just walk over and like nudge their bottle of milk over?
That is not in the spirit of Great British Baking Show.
How dare
Okay,
you?
fair enough. All right, so we're not departuring too much from that.
You sprinkle some bones in their cake, but then it turns out he loves the bones.
He loves
God
bones.
damn it.
He loves
Those are
cyanide.
mine.
I've got some of that.
Bone man.
I didn't realise he loved grouting, and I've filled your cake with it.
I think if you could interact with other players, then the problem is that within the first 30 seconds of the game beginning, the kitchen would just be a fucking mess.
Yeah,
and
fair
everything would be destroyed. Like maybe there are some things you can do. I don't know. Maybe there is some wiggle room.
Stations you have to run to. So like the fridge should be positioned far enough away that you've got to kind of run to it, and it's not just all completely reachable. So there's a bit of time management in terms of like traversing the kitchen as well.
I think
maybe not bumping into each other. I don't know.
I think
maybe
winning the game, winning the show is one thing, but winning hearts is another. And I think you get some reputation points if you help another player out while the cameras are on you, of course. Otherwise,
do we have a Paragon and a Renegade path? So you can just, the cameras come on and you're like, you're a fucking bastard. Get out of my face, camera.
You've won. You've won the Great British Baking Show, but everyone fucking hates you.
So you said the cookbook you released doesn't sell any copies afterwards.
Exactly.
So at the end, at the end of the series where they flash up the like text that says such and such has gone on holiday with da da da. It's like your cookbook didn't sell anything. You've become homeless, and the end of the game.
Man, that really took a turn.
That's a bit much, I know. But you've chosen the Renegade path, so you know.
Destitute.
Yeah.
So it seemed we've introduced a lot of mechanics, but then again, it didn't start with much. It started with me saying the Great British Bake Off, the game.
Yeah.
So I feel like it feels pretty fleshed out now. I don't know, how is everyone feeling about what it is in there?
Look, we've just cooked up a load of different pieces of a showstopper, and it's up to the audience to put it all together to make a good game now. And that's just half the fun of playing this. My favorite bit.
What do you want to see in it? Sorry, he doesn't have one. He's speechless.
I mean, about halfway through this, I did start to wonder, at what point did we, as Pitch Please, stop making games and just start talking about, like, how do we turn this show or this thing into a game? And I don't. Is this playable? Is this makeable? Is this a thing at all? Unless we just steal Cook Serve Delicious or Cooking Sim or Cooking Mama or WarioWare. I think that's a question for the devs more than anyone else. Can you make this game?
You brought that up at the very end.
What do you mean?
Throughout all this, yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll do this. And at the end, actually, no, fuck it, shit.
Hang on, I've gone too far.
It's impossible to make.
Like, Chris, James, is any of this makeable? Can you see a universe where a dimension where this game could be made?
Anything's makeable if you throw enough money at it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're already trying to roll back on some of the ideas, if you've got choosable parts or you've got definable things you've got to make,
That's true.
You're on the right track. But if you go, you could design whatever the fuck you want. There's no way you can attribute scoring to that. Well, easily anyway, fairly.
So it needs limitations.
So I think the idea being that if you've got 100 players, you're all given the same thing to make, immediately you've got something much more achievable. And then you've got the comparison of there's like 100 cakes here and some of them just look garbage. Some of them look amazing. You've got points, you win, you go to the next round. But then you lose out on the comedy, right? So if you made it, actually, there's only 10 of you and it's a much smaller multiplayer game, you open up the scope to be a bit more silly with it potentially. And how does the AI factor in? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's judged by a human player and you just take it. It's a Cards Against Humanity type deal where you take it in turns to be judge. And you as the judge can walk around and fuck with the other players. There's a whole different side of the game that you could have,
there is a part of me that almost wants this to be like a Gartic phone kind of play this over Discord with your friends kind of game. Like I don't know, you write a prompt at the start. I mean, I don't want to completely rip off Gartic phone or anything, but you write a prompt at the start, that is handed to someone else. Now, like, right, I have to make that, or I have to make a cake that fits this shape or whatever. I mean, I don't know if that completely removes the judging thing, but it's just the results at the end and everyone laughs and has a gay old time just looking at your cakes.
Yeah, it's the interpretation and the degradation of the original design along the way that's the funny part. But I don't know how you do that with baking.
Yeah, that's true.
Matthew, what about you?
I like the bit where you have to ask them questions and it's all a bit like Ridley and they can lie to you about whether or not they eat concrete.
They could be dishonest. I feel like that's throwing a whole new element.
That's my favourite bit, is like the idea of a dishonest Paul Hollywood lying about whether he eats some absurd ingredient.
You get to the end of the series and it's like, it turns out Paul Hollywood was a liar. No!
All right. Well, it could be a million different things. If you think it's something in particular, you could just let us know. Just tell us. Just start talking out loud right now. While you're listening to this.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Wherever you are. Just say it. Or you can let us know on Twitter.
Yeah, it's better on there,
where
actually.
Where is that, Tom?
That's at PitchPlusPod on Twitter. There you go. Let us know what you thought of the episode. And also to Mr. FG on Twitter. There's another one.
Yeah, he's not wrong. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you again, Matthew, for joining us. And
no worries.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I want to see Paul Hollywood eat shit.